everyone. Father Matt here with today's Gospel reflection for Saturday, March 21st, Saturday of the third week of Lent. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus addressed this parable to those who were convinced of their own righteousness and despised everyone else. Two people went up to the temple area to pray. One was a Pharisee and the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee took up his position and spoke this prayer to himself. "O God, I thank you that I am not like the rest of humanity, greedy, dishonest, adulterous, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I pay tithes on my whole income." But the tax collector stood off at a distance and would not even raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast and prayed, "O God, be merciful to me, a sinner." I tell you, the latter went home justified, not the former. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. The Gospel of the Lord. When I was in the seminary, I was in a pastoral placement working with a Jesuit novice, and one of his most common expressions was compare to despair. He said that when we spend all of our time comparing ourselves to others, comparing our situations to others, we make assumptions that may or may not be true. And what's more, still more dangerous, we end up being so distracted with things going on outside, with this unhealthy gaze outward, that we miss the many ways in which the Lord is at work in our own hearts, the many ways in which he's inviting us to conversion, the ways that his creative love is unfolding within us. And we see this dynamic unfold in today's gospel. The Pharisee was so full of himself that he had no room for the creative love of God in his heart, right? He ultimately was the object of his own prayer, right? Crowded out the Lord by his selfishness and self-centeredness. Was this tax collector who knew of his humble need for God, who knew that he was a sinner. And it was in emptying himself, offering his emptiness to the Lord, that he was able to be filled with God's righteousness. Now, I think perhaps in our time today, maybe we find ourselves a bit isolated, and in this isolation can be tempted to compare, right, in an unhealthy way. But rather than doing that, the Lord invites us in this time of still and quiet, perhaps to spend some time with him to bring to mind those things that we're grateful for, the ways in which we have responded to God's call in our hearts and lives, and perhaps more importantly, to bring our needs to him, right? To acknowledge, as the tax collector did, the Lord's mercy and our sinfulness, and to trust that it is in offering that to him and offering the Lord our need that we find satisfaction and the Lord's creative love very much alive within us.